It's Tuesday night, and this is Crazy Chris's Rants. We got a lot to go over this time. I thought once football ended, wouldn't have too much to go on, but apparently we do. So we'll get right into it. Myles Garrett of the Browns is reinstated to the NFL. He's the one that hit Mason Rudolph of the Pittsburgh Steelers over the head with Rudolph's own helmet. He was suspended for a number of games, and the NFL has decided to reinstate him. So we will see where that goes. Jameis Winston undergoes LASIK surgery. It's just kind of odd because he threw 30 interceptions and 30 touchdowns this year, and people are kind of making fun of that. Maybe his eyesight was bad because of the 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. Most people don't throw that many interceptions during the season, so we'll see if it helps him any at all. Jay Bouwmeester of the St. Louis Blues suffered a cardiac episode on the St. Louis Blues bench. They were playing the Mighty Ducks, or not the Mighty Ducks now, but the Ducks. I guess it just depends upon where you go from. They were playing the Anaheim Ducks, and around in the first period of the game, Bouwmeester was on the bench getting ready for his next shift, and he kind of passed out due to whatever episode it was. They're still not 100% sure what caused it. They're just calling it a cardiac episode. He is recovering in a hospital, and he is doing well. Hopefully either A, they find out what's wrong and help and try to get him some treatment for that, or B, that it's just one of those weird things that happens once and hopefully it will never happen again. It's very scary to see anybody have something like that on the ice, or anywhere for that matter, ice field, no matter where it's at, court, no matter what. It's scary to see that. So, the game against the Ducks was postponed. I think they'll make it up a later date. On Impact Wrestling, Michael Elgin beats Eddie Edwards to take a 2-0 lead in that best of 5 series. I don't know if they're really going to do anything with that or not. It's a little bit hard to tell. All we know is that if Elgin wins one more, he will beat Edwards in that best of 5, and I do believe he gets his Call Your Shot contract, which is that you can challenge for the World Heavyweight title at any moment. So we'll see how that goes. Jordynne Grace finally wins the Knockouts title over Taya Valkyrie. Taya had the Knockouts title for quite a long time, and they had been playing that Jordynne Grace was going to be the champion at some point, and they finally went ahead and done that and decided to go ahead and make that happen. So we'll see how that goes in the coming weeks. Another thing that we want to talk about, I want to talk about governor of our state, Jim Justice. There was a nasty incident at Greenbrier East when they were playing Woodrow Wilson in girls basketball. What I gather out of the video and everything that I've read is that a couple of the girls on Greenbrier East did some things. Of course, I'm sure Woodrow had some part in it too. I'm not saying they're completely not guilty or innocent in this case. You have physical sports, and everybody kind of gets into that. But a parent of a Greenbrier East person that was in the Greenbrier East cheering section got a little bit mouthy, and one of the coaches off of Woodrow was over there to calm the gentleman down, and it escalated a little bit further, and it caused the coach to get arrested from the obstruction of obstructing an officer call. And I'm not real sure why he gets arrested, nobody else does. you would think, because he kind of said his piece and was going to go on, and the officer kind of arrested him instead. And then it hands down, the WVSSAC hands down a 2-game suspension for 5 of the players off of Woodrow Wilson. I understand we have rules that have to be followed, and the WVSSAC did what was within the guidelines that needed to be done. But my thought process is, why not, why not figure out some other thing than to take two games away from these 5 individuals who were checking on their coach. And I mean, these are like families. These are like families. When you spend that much time around certain individuals, they become family instead of something like that. Like if you've got a coworker at one of your jobs, or if you are on a team of some sort, you help each other out, and you make sure that everybody's in the same boat, and everybody's going along with everything, and you make sure that everybody's okay. And and that's what these girls were doing. They were making sure that their coach was okay, because he gets arrested, he gets released later off of nothing. And it took a long time, and finally we got an apology, because our great governor of this state called those girls off of the other team thugs. And here's the thing, he's got to remember that these people that he just called thugs, these people are the reason that he's in office. These people are some of the reason. There are 55 counties in West Virginia. There are people that vote in each of these counties to vote you into office. And you show your character by calling one of those counties thugs. And it wouldn't have been, I don't think, it kind of shocked me that a lot of these schools and a lot of the people in Raleigh County were for Woodrow, even though, they maybe had kids, or they maybe even went to like places like Shady, Independence, Liberty, anywhere in Raleigh County, and they were in support of Woodrow. So, obviously the county stands together, and it's a problem when somebody calls somebody a thug. I know everybody talks about the president done it and things like that, but it's a shame when somebody calls individuals that, and the individuals are impressionable young, not adults, but young adults, teenagers to young adults. And what kind of example are you setting for your students and for your team and for your area? That's what I'm driving at. What kind of, you're supposed to be setting an example for these people, and you're not setting a very good example by doing that. Like I said, the president does it, but the president doesn't need to set an example, because then when has the president needed to set an example lately? Obama surely didn't do it. And so, or the examples he set were not very good. And people talk about, no, Trump's bad. You look back on the last couple of presidents we've had, they've all been bad. One way or the other. They've all been bad. They've all made tons of mistakes and things like that. And that's how that goes. But just kind of disappointed in the governor, but I kind of expect that reaction from him. But he finally apologized. That eases it just a little bit more. He still thinks that they did no wrong or anything like that, or that he didn't say anything wrong. At least he apologized helps a little bit, but it's still, that's a shame. That's a shame. Should have never happened. Should have never been said. The whole altercation should have never went. Should never happen. Up next, the NXT. Lio Rush beats Angel Garza for #1 contender to Cruiserweight title. We skip right over to AEW. Omega and Page retain the tag titles over SCU. Nyla Rose defeats Rio for the women's title. Nyla Rose is one of these kind of imposing women's figure in wrestling. Kind of like Awesome Kong and some of those other ones where you kind of wonder who's going to take the belt off of them, or is it going to take more than just one person in a match to do that, because she's kind of big and dominating. Credit Rio for giving her a match that a lot of people thought Rio could win. The kind of David versus Goliath mentality, and Rio just, I guess they just wanted to pull the trigger on somebody else and have it different. On SmackDown, Bayley retains her title against Carmella. This was kind of an impromptu, I think, matchup. Wasn't really a matchup anyway. It didn't really last that long. And Bayley just looked dominant against her. Of course, now Naomi comes out at the end after Bayley's kind of beating on Carmella, and Naomi helps her toss Bayley over the ropes and out of the ring. So I believe Naomi and Carmella have a #1 contenders match coming up. Can't see why they would not have Naomi to win that match to set her up against Bayley. That would be the thing to do. There was a segment that had been building up for a while. It was Otis of Heavy Construction and Mandy Rose, and they were supposed to go on a Valentine's Day date. WWE kind of throws Ziggler in the mix. I'm not real sure why they had him in this segment. But to make a long story short, Otis gets there late and Ziggler's already sitting at the table. So we'll see how they go with these three individuals as we move ahead, see what kind of storyline they come up with. Hopefully it's not as bad as the Bobby Lashley and Lana and Rusev storyline that we got going. That was just confusing as can be, and still is confusing to this moment. It's still very confusing. So hopefully we don't have a repeat of that. Manchester City of the Premier League is banned from the Champions League for 2 years for overstated sponsor revenue. Not really much to say about this other than what I just said. There's really no explanation needed, I don't think, other than what we said. Just thought we'd throw it out there. Josh Norman got released from the Redskins. Norman got released, and the reason that the Redskins cited was that he was underperforming. Wasn't doing great there, but he wasn't doing bad either, so I don't really see where the underperforming comes in there. But I don't know what they were expecting him to be, but obviously he was not meeting expectations in DC, so he's gone from there. Paul George has been fined he's in basketball. He plays for the Clippers. He was fined for criticizing officials in a game that the Clippers lost. He went 3 for 15 shooting, and the penalties were 19-11, and he decided to say that the officials were calling fouls against the Clippers. Again, do not criticize the officials when you go 3 for 15 and the penalties are 19-11. That's only an 8 penalty difference. It's not an overwhelming thing. And just because you have a bad, terrible night shooting and you can't make a basket, do not blame it on the officials. That is on you. That is on you as a player. You were not making the shots. They were not going. The shots were not falling. Do not blame that on somebody else. That is your fault. That is your own fault. Let's see. Team LeBron defeats Team Giannis in NBA All-Star Game. It was like on a last-second shot. I guess they had to try to fix it to make it look halfway interesting. I don't know of how many people watched it. I don't know if anybody really watched it, to tell you the truth. Over the years, the NBA All-Star Game has been just, I'll just say it, it's been crap. It's really been crap. So, it's really been just boring and crap. Let's see. Kyrie Irving is going to be the vice president of the NBA's Players Association. So, we'll see if he changes anything on that. Here's an interesting stat. UConn women's basketball team is out of the top 5 for the first time in 13 years. This team has been in the top 5 of the standings for the last 13 years and have finally lost enough games to be knocked out of the top 5. I say it should have been earlier. I wish it would have been earlier because it gets really boring seeing the same team win all of the time. It's like watching the Patriots in football. It gets boring. It gets boring and you lose people viewing because they know exactly what's going to happen. Don't do that. People don't like it when that happens. Let's see. New Jersey trades Andy Green to the Islanders, which was their captain, and the Devils get David Quenneville and the 2021 second round pick. Not sure what they're doing in New Jersey. I think they're getting younger players to start a rebuild. They're dead last in the Metro at the moment. They're not that. Everybody in the Metro is kind of close, so they're not really the worst team in the league. That happens to be Detroit right at the moment, but they're still down there. And I guess they thought that maybe this year maybe they would be better. They made it to the playoffs a couple of years back. I don't really know what happened all of a sudden that it just kind of ran into the ground. But we'll see if they're going to go with that youth as they go forward. NXT TakeOver Portland was a pay-per-view that was on Sunday night without anything else on. Keith Lee defends the North American title against Dominik Dijakovic in what was a great match. Both men are really big. I think they're both over 300 pounds. And showing some athleticism and some agility. It was a really great match. If you get the chance to watch it on YouTube, you might want to do that. Even if you just watch the highlights of it. It's a really good match. Really interesting to see how that went. Either man could have won that match, and I would have been fine with that either way. Let's see. Rhea Ripley retained against Bianca Belair, and then Charlotte Flair kind of comes out and beats her down a little bit and challenges Rhea Ripley for the NXT title at WrestleMania. This is a head scratcher. Charlotte Flair won the Royal Rumble, decides to challenge the NXT Women's Champion. The NXT is the developmental, like the farm system for WWE. Why they're doing this, I'm really not sure. I don't really know the call for it. You would think Charlotte would go after either Bayley or Becky, and the way that they have Charlotte, she could be either heel or face, but they are going to make her a heel and make her face Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania in a match that I can only describe as, it's not going to be as good as probably what we would think it would be. I mean, they could make it good, but I just don't know if it's going to happen that way. The Broserweights defeated the Undisputed Era to win the tag titles. It's about time they took the tag titles off of the Undisputed Era anyway, because the Undisputed Era had all the gold again. Made it to where I didn't want to watch any of this, because I figured that the Undisputed Era would cheat to retain the titles. They did not. Well, they tried to a little bit, but they did not, and they lost the titles. And you can't see it right now, but I am ecstatically thrilled about that. Now, the only problem I had with the pay-per-view was solid. The whole thing was good. The last match, Adam Cole is facing Tommaso Ciampa. This was where it went sour. The match was a decent match. It was a good match. The Undisputed Era comes out to help Cole. They get the crap beat out of them by Ciampa. Ciampa takes on the whole group, beats them down. He ends up knocking out the referee inadvertently, and his tag team partner, who he had before, Gargano, ends up clocking him upside the head with the belt. That was not the ending we needed. Otherwise, the whole show would have been fantastic if Ciampa would have won the title. But he did not win the title, and it's a shame that happened, and it's a shame that even if they would have had Cole to win without help, it would have been better than the way that he won. Because then he just looks like a straight up chump that needs help because he can't wrestle. That's pretty much what it boils down to. He looks like a chump at that point. Not a champ, a chump. So it was good to up to that point, and then after that point it just sucked. Anyway, on Raw, Riddick Moss retains the 24/7 title over Mojo Rawley and R-Truth. My question is, are we going to have a 24/7 title, or are we just going to have title matches that are actually sanctioned and we just call them hardcore matches even though nothing goes on and they're not really 24/7 matches? Why do we even have the belt if we're not going to do this and that with it? And some people are like, well, you can't have it with this and that and everything just going everywhere. No, you can't do it all the time. But at the time, every now and then, it's different. Back whenever I was a teenager and it was the Raw era, the Attitude Raw era, they had a hardcore championship. And yeah, they had matches, but yeah, they had backstage stuff too. And it was nothing to see somebody clock somebody with a trash can lid or anything like that, and it made it better because you just never knew what was going to happen. And I don't know if people just don't want to see that or what. I'm not sure. That's another thing I want to rant about. These people in these crowds have no idea what they want. They're cheering for Adam Cole in the match against Tommaso Ciampa, and they're cheering for Ciampa and then Cole, and then Ciampa and then Cole. very few matches like the one with Lee and how you say the guy's name? Dijakovic. Very few matches have face against face or heel against heel. Adam Cole is to be labeled as a heel, but the fans love him. You will have a problem if this keeps going at this pace. And they do it. It's not only on NXT. It's on SmackDown and Raw. You can't have this happen all the time. You're going to have problems. The crowd is confused as to who they're supposed to cheer for and who they're supposed to boo. They're confused. They have no earthly idea what to do. So you need to clearly define what role somebody plays in every match. You need to define that so that we know what to do. It's getting really confusing. The Attitude Era, again, like the one I was in and the one I would watch, we didn't have that problem. We knew who we wanted to cheer for, and we knew who we didn't, who we wanted to boo. And then, like I had a friend that he liked the heels at the time and didn't like the faces, so he cheered for the heels. But that was okay because that was how he did stuff. He didn't cheer for the faces. He cheered for the heels because everybody else was cheering for the faces. So that he wanted to do something a little bit different, and that's up to him. He can do that, but not when you got a big crowd that's going halfway in the other way. Greg Olson is signed by the Seattle Seahawks, so he's going to play there. They're going to try him out, see how it goes. They were talking about he might retire, but he's not retiring this year. Charlie Strong, who was coaching Texas, and I think he went South Florida to coach, he is going to join Nick Saban at Alabama to be an assistant coach of some sort there. See how that turns out for him. Drew Brees is coming back for another season in the NFL. Nice to see Drew Brees actually going to come back, and he's not calling it quits yet. He's pretty good quarterback, and he still looks like he can go. So see what happens. And the last thing I want to talk about is Danny Hamlin. Well, it's not going to be the last thing because I got another thing. Danny Hamlin wins the Daytona 500. The bigger story is the big crash on the last lap where Ryan Newman is in first place. Hamlin's in third. Blaney is in second. Dave Blaney, they're coming down the backstretch. They're near the start-finish line. There was a crash that was on the backstretch, and I guess from where they had a caution flag before and they were trying to do a green-white checkered, they kind of messed up on the restart. Somebody gets spun out, but it wasn't really a bad wreck, but they didn't end it. I guess they were just going to run that last lap. And Blaney's pushing, and from what I hear, I have watched the video and I have kind of calmed down from it. From what I hear, Hamlin is in the back of Blaney. Blaney's in the back of Newman. Newman gets spun around, and I'm not sure how it worked out, but he ended up being airborne, being flipped over a few times. I think he gets hit by LaJoie as well, which LaJoie, he couldn't have avoided him anyway. There's no way to avoid. When a car is doing stuff like that and there's smoke and stuff everywhere, there's a lot of times when you can't see, your spotter ain't going to be able to see, and it's inevitable. You might be collected and you might hit somebody. Now, granted, Ryan Newman finished 5th in the race. He finishes 5th. He finishes 5th upside down in his car when it's leaking. And it's like leaking fluids. And they get him out of the car. He goes to the hospital. He is in serious condition, but but his injuries are not life-threatening. He's in a serious condition, but his injuries are not life-threatening. So we'll see. We'll hope for a speedy recovery. Hope that he gets better. You never want to, like I said earlier, with the cardiac episode with Bouwmeester, you don't want to see this happen anywhere, sports or anywhere else. You don't want to see it happen. Unfortunately, in racing, wrecks do happen, unfortunately. They try to do as much as they can to make these things safe, but you can't really... To make everything safe, you'd have to wrap everybody in bubble wrap and everything in bubble wrap, and that just can't happen. You can't do it. You can't do it. It doesn't happen. Sports are what they are. You know, you can't do anything. You can't predict anything, really. The only other thing I want to talk about is, and I addressed this maybe a week or two ago, people are still wanting the Astros World Series to be taken back. Again, if that's the case, you might as well take back the New England's Super Bowls. So, and but you don't take back titles, so, and you don't award them to other teams. So that's one of those things where you can cry all you want. Ain't gonna make a difference. They ain't gonna take them away. It'd be stupid to do anything anyway, and that would just be stupid of anybody. But anyway, we're gonna try to think for Friday Night Fisticuffs. We're gonna try to do Gauntlet. Oh gosh, not Gauntlet. We're gonna try to do Golden Axe 1 and 2. I know there's 3 games in the series. The number 3 one is not one of the favorites on anything like that. I'm going to try to play the first 2. I don't know if they're going to be... I don't know if number 1's going to be an arcade playthrough or if I'm going to try to find a way to get through that. But we're going to try to find a way to get through both of them. If we can't get through both of them, we're just going to do the best I can do and get as far as I can, and we'll do it that way. So we'll see how that works. Thinking of doing in a couple weeks. I'm thinking of doing 2 Dungeons and Dragons games that are relatively short. One's called Tower of Doom. The other is Chronicles of Mystaria, I think, is the name of that one. And they have different endings and different ways through them. I don't think I'll be going all the way through the different ones, but we'll see how long an actual playthrough takes. We'll see how many endings we want to get done, that we will try to get done. So like I said, not going to guarantee that that's going to be something that's going to be all the way through. But we're going to try to do what we can. So, but that's it for this Tuesday. You guys know to hit like, watch the video, hit like. Tell your friends if you think that there's something on here that they'd be interested in. And let them know that we do this every Tuesday. And we'll be back next Tuesday to see what else is going on. So we'll see you then.